What is up, guys? So today we're going to be doing a story recap of the new updates of Zenless Zone 0 3.0, and we're going to be talking about the events of the story, recounting everything, summarizing everything, and at the end I'm going to be doing like a summary and like I give my opinions and speculation about everything. So this is my first time doing this type of video, so it might not be that perfect, so let me know if you have any feedback on how to improve them, because I kind of want to do this more, not just for Zenless Zone 0 but also for other games. I'm also actually doing this for two reasons. The first one is for people who want to look it up, like who want to look like the story recaps of the updates, or if they don't understand anything or missed something. And the second reason is for myself, because sometimes I want to refresh my memory about the past events and what happened before. And I think Zenless Zone 0 doesn't really have that many like videos when it comes to that. Like I know games like Honkai Star Rail and Genshin have that, but ZZZ I don't really find that many for that. So I just doing this so that if I want to look up like the past events, I can just rewatch my videos myself. But anyway, this is gonna be like 3.0, the story, the main story, and let's dive into it. So the story picks up from last update after Wise Ether condition, where he lost control and had to get the help of Remiel by making him touch the void weapon. She was also the one who suggested for him to go to Roscaelifer to get treated from his condition. And that's pretty much where the story starts from. So 3.0 starts with the proxies, Cecilia and Billy packing up and getting ready to get picked up by the ESD, the External Strategy Department. I'll be talking more in depth about the department of Roscaelifer later on. And the story already started amazing, because we actually get Cecilia and Billy to join us in Roscaelifer. I was a bit skeptical about this when they said this last update, and I was like, they're probably gonna find some excuses to not include them, but thank God they're actually coming with us. We arrive to Roscaelifer and get introduced to the city as per usual. So before we start, Roscaelifer is supposed to be this super secret city that is floating in the air, and its existence is supposed to be super duper secret, that nobody in New Erdo should know about. The city's population is also 60% bamboo, where they coexist with the humans and intelligent constructs, and they have the same right as them, like they are workers, they have the same, they are citizens and everything. And the city was also founded by none other than Sunbringer. And speaking of Sunbringer, because she is going to be an important figure in this region. So for those who don't know, Sunbringer was the original founder of the bamboos years ago. She originally invented them to help humans navigate throughout the Hollow. They were more like military assistants that are supposed to have like these destructive powers and they're supposed to be scary. I think back then we did have a quest where we get introduced to one of the bamboos in one of the hollows. I don't remember if it was a main quest or a sub quest, side story quest. But we met a bamboo who was like forgotten, who was like way from a previous era. And that's where we learn a little bit about the lore of the bamboos and how they were supposed to be designed. But later on, as we know, the bamboos spread out across all of New Erdo to help the humans with various tasks, like from shopkeeping to household, and even become like regular citizens of like New Erdo and Roscaelifer as well. Another thing that we learn in Roscaelifer is that Sunbringer in fact is an intelligent construct. I don't think this was mentioned before, maybe it was hinted at or something, but at least we get the confirmation of it like this update. And that she later on, she split herself into 3 Sunbringer versions. The way this works is that basically the original Sunbringer split herself into 3, but we still don't know the reason why she did that. They also have different names. There's Eldrida, Dracena, and Lindvern, and they're also the head of 3 of the 5 major departments of Roscaelifer. The thing is, despite all of them being Sunbringers, but none of them actually retain the memories of the original one, which means that they don't even know the reason why she split herself into 3 in the first place, which was made clear by when the proxy asked Dracena on why she did that. However, Eldrida, the head of the Administrative Affairs Department, she is the one with the most memories for the original, and she also looks the closest to her in terms of appearances. Now, as for Roscaelifer itself, the city consists of 5 major departments that contribute into the city's activities. The first one is the External Strategies Department, which is short for ESD, and the head of this department is Velena. Basically, what this department does is that it acts as a bridge between Roscaelifer and New Erdo. They take care of the external affairs without having all of Roscaelifer getting involved. This is why it was Velena and Norma who were the ones that visited us in New Erdo to take us to Roscaelifer. The second department is Flint Workshop, which is head by Claret, which we haven't met yet in the story so far. And it actually didn't get to see the department yet in 3.0. But what this department does is that they refine and manufacture the porcelain and any other development that are related to it. They were also responsible for crafting the Void Hunter weapons as well back in the past, and I think even now. For those who don't know, the porcelain is the same material that was used for that W engine that we were wanting to win from 2.0 update. The same one that comes Wise or Bell, depending on which proxy you're playing, that count proxies ether conditions. The third department is the Central Computing Department, or CCD for short, which is led by one of the three Sunbringers, Dracena. They're responsible for generating the Rosetta data and studying the hollows. So, for the Rosetta data, you can think of it as this master data that is used to calibrate the hollow equipment, such as the carrots or anything that is used to navigate the hollows. Because these equipments over time start generating errors and become inaccurate, and the Rosetta data is basically what is used to recalibrate these equipments. The fourth department is the Airspace Patrol, which is led by one of the other three Sunbringers, Lindvern. We actually didn't meet Lindvern yet, or even saw how she looks like, except from a certain silhouette in the game in one of the files. But we did meet another one, which is the Uma girl, Sigrid. So Sigrid is the only one that we met from the playable characters, at least that we met from the Airspace Patrol. So basically, this department acts like the security of Roscaelifer. They are the ones who are responsible for maintaining order, and you can think of them as the police, the police of Roscaelifer. And the fifth and final department is the Administrative Affairs Department, AAD, which is led by none other than Eldrida, who is the other Sunbringer, the last one that I said, who looks exactly the same. Not exactly, but looks the closest to the original Sunbringer. So this department is the one that handles the diplomatic affairs and political affairs of the city, and you can think of them as the government of Roscaelifer. And Eldrida, one of the Sunbringers, is the one who has like the final say of everything. Like she is like the president of Roscaelifer. You can think of it that way. So that's for the 5 major departments of Roscaelifer. We do learn that there are other departments in the city who are smaller, but these are the 5 major ones that contribute the most for the city. So after we arrive to Roscaelifer, Velina basically tries to act like our mother. So she basically tells us to go to the school, son. And I'm not joking, that's actually what she tells us. So since we're in Roscaelifer and they want our ether condition to remain hidden and not public for the citizens of Roscaelifer, especially because we are outsiders, so we are a little bit sus when it comes to like the cities, like it's supposed to be a hidden city. Velina had this idea that we should disguise ourselves as academy students. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Billy got way more important roles. So Cecilia is gonna be like an emotional pet, and Billy is gonna be like this household appliance, which are important roles, by the way. Later that night, Proxy has a dream, or rather a flashback, of 2 of his childhood friends who are called Truvia and Serpico. So we still don't know the full details of this, but it is implied that they were experimented on when they were kids, and that this led to an incident where Serpico got tragically killed. I think this plot is gonna be more relevant important in the future, and this flashback is mainly just serving as an introduction to who they are basically. Next day we get to see a speech from Eldrida, one of the Sunbringers. Basically, she honors the dead from a certain operation where they try to retrieve the corrupted data, and more importantly, she announces that they want to expand cooperation with New Eridu. So what I'm guessing is that Eldrida has some plans that will involve New Eridu, which then means that Roscaelifer's existence might not be a secret after all. So it's like they're trying to open up to the public to make their existence not be a secret anymore. We still don't know the details yet, so this is just my speculation. Since even the proxies themselves concluded this after the speech. Once again, this feels like a setup for what's coming in the future updates. Anyway, with all of that said, we finally get to go to the CCD, the Central Computing Department, which is led by Dracena, to get the proxy actually healed, because that's the reason why we are in Roscaelifer in the first place. So we meet Dracena for the first time, and she was the one who explains to us that there are three different versions of Sunbringers, which is something I already explained. We get to the room to start the process of our healing. Everything was going smoothly until Proxy started getting some PTSDs from having their consciousness altered. And that's where we meet Pyrois, like the one that we met in the previous update. Not the one that we met, the one that we transformed into, like the proxies. The Aura Farmer, by the way. So they had this long discussion about guilt and how Proxy wants to protect his friends and not let the tragedy from before happen again. And after a lot of back and forth, finally decide that he's gonna tame this entity, Pyrois, and make use of its power. After a lot of struggle, this entity finally subdues its power to us and gives us the name Pyrois. That's what we are known for right now. They didn't necessarily fight it or anything. They were more like talk things out. And after that, we get a chance to spare with Billy to try our newfound power, which is Pyrois. So after these events of the CCD and the healing are done, after that we learn a certain incident where the energy hub was overflowing with Hollow, and Proxy decides to lend a hand and help the airspace patrol with the situation, since the conditions of this incident are similar to the Hollow, and Proxy is already familiar and have enough experience navigating them. We also learn about this new thing in 3.0 called singularity leakages. Basically, when the ether energy stored inside the energy hub becomes dense, it starts creating these dimensional fissures and create these things called the singularity leakages, which you can think of them as like mini hollows. Previously, these leakages were more stable and harmless, but after the creator's awakening, they started becoming more and more unstable, and the frequency increased as well. So we head into the singularity, and while at it, we were also trying to track where Norma is, since she was inside too, and investigate certain Bangbu logic core incident that Norma was accused for, because Norma was basically changing the logic core of the Bangbu with a modern one that could have helped them restore memories, but every single one that she changed always resulted in an incident to happen, which made everyone turn to Norma and accusing her for installing defected logic cores. And by the way, the reason Norma wanted to upgrade the Bangbu memories is because the Bangbu that retire in Roscaelifer get sent to New Eridu, but not before they get their memories wiped out, because the existence of Roscaelifer is supposed to be a secret, so the Bangbus who get sent there get their memories wiped out. So after a lot of exploration inside the singularity leakage and some train shenanigans and Pyrois farming a lot of aura, we finally managed to find Norma. And then we started the search for the missing Bangbu, who is called Simon. Unfortunately, by the time we find him, his logic core was already fried, and Simon was pretty much dead. Norma tried to decipher his last word, which were these words, Angel, which were very faint. This didn't make sense at first, but this will lead to a certain investigation later on. After solving the energy hub and the singularity leakage incident, we meet the representative of the Administrative Affairs Department, who is called Carinus, on the same night, who announces to the ESD, the External Strategy Department, that they're getting called for an interpellation due to the changes of logic cores they have been doing and how they caused many Bangbus to die, since Simon's death was actually the 9th one. So they wanted to investigate this new installed logic core safety, and they also had a deadline of 3 days. Later on that night, we find Norma sneaking into our dome, asking us to help her clear the ESD and Velina's name about the corrupted Bangbus incident before the date of the interpellation. And the way to do that is to trace the incident back to its source and identify the real culprit. And their clue was the last words of the deceased Bangbu Simon, Angel. So we were trying basically to find this Angel that they were talking about from early on. According to Norma though, Angel was actually already known in Roscaelifer, and it was said to be this legend that grant the Bangbus who wish to retain their memories their wishes. After some investigation, we learn of the localization of where Angel is, and that was in CCD, which was shocking to everyone. So Norma and Proxy had the genius idea to infiltrate the place, and as soon as they get in, they immediately get caught. But fortunately, they were able to keep up in their way thanks to Norma's help and her wiping the memories of the Bangbu who caught up to inside, because the Bangbus were actually the ones who are guarding the CCD. And finally, we get to meet Remiel inside, who, as soon as Proxy and Norma met, automatically assumed that she was Angel. And can you blame them? Look at her wings and look at her angelic appearance. After some back and forth, Remiel denies that she is the angel that they're talking about. And after asking Fairy for the new localization, like the new updated localization, it turned out that Angel is not in the CCD. Like, she's not inside the CCD where we find her. In fact, she was in the airspace control tower. So Remiel basically cleared her name, and she teams up with us to leave CCD, and we fight our way out. But as soon as we're out, something crazy happens. There has been a singularity leakage in CCD and causing Ethereals to appear, which is insane because this is supposed to be impossible since this is happening inside the heart of the city with the tightest and highest security possible. We head inside the singularity, and after some investigation, we deduced that it's not the singularity leakages that killed the bank boost. In fact, it's the bank boost that triggered the singularity leakages, and that the Ethereals were attracted to these leakages. So we tracked down one of the infected bank boosts called Toby to try and save him and also catch the real culprit. After hitting deep inside the leakage, we fight against the mysterious ethereal that we've been chasing. And right after that, a new one in the shape of a giant worm appears and keeps chasing us. And after an very intense chase, Pyrois managed to help us, and we finally get rid of the worm, which also, by the way, confirms a theory that Proxy had about Pyrois being able to control these singularity leakages, because Pyrois basically was the one who was helping us throughout all of these distorted singularity leakages, which are like these mini hollows. With that whole situation dealt with, we finally find Toby, the bamboo that we were searching for. His situation was terrible, but after Velina's interference, Norma was actually able to save Toby. And then it turned out that Angel, that we were looking for this whole time, and the one that was helping the bamboos, was none other than Velina. Because prior to this, Velina and the ESD as a whole had this bad reputation with the bamboos, and she was called a witch because she was always taking the blame for the memory wiping that the bamboos went through. But after this Toby incident, and after learning that she was the one helping them from the shadows, the bamboo's behavior drastically changed towards her for the better now, and they started having like this kind of trust and respect towards her. The day is saved, and it turned out that the bamboo deaths weren't caused by the logic cores that Norma installed, nor by the corruptions from the singularity leakages, but rather with a high ether that was artificially implanted that could cause an eruption. Normally inside a hollow, these eruptions are imperceptible, but because Roscaelifer exists in the sky and don't necessarily have hollows, these eruptions outside of a hollow causes singularity leakages. This also clears the ESD's name, and the interpolation is withdrawn. And then at the very end of the story, we meet Remiel again in our room. Don't ask me what she's doing in our room, I don't know. Where Wise asks her why she wasn't as surprised when they fought against the Ethereal from earlier in CCD, and whether she's familiar with them, because she was kind of acting sus and she was not really fazed by them. It's like she was familiar with them already. And in which Remiel asks us if we are familiar with this new term called the Enchainers. We cut back to Dracena having a singularity leakage inside her office, and it was presumed that she was kidnapped. And that's where the story ends. So 3.0 was very interesting. I actually really loved these updates, and I think it might be one of, if not my favorite update from all of Zenless 0. Especially after like Season 2, which I really didn't enjoy, but I don't want to make this video about Season 2. But this region introduced a lot of new concepts and a lot of lore, and the characters in the city actually feel like they contribute to everything, like because they are part of these 5 major departments who are parts of the city, so every character has some sort of weight to them. And one of the things that I really love is the fact that Cecilia and Billy are actually with us, because like I said earlier, I was a bit skeptical because, you know, Gacha games don't really like to keep characters from the previous update with us and carry it to the next regions. So even though they were like, okay, Cecilia and Billy are gonna be joining us, but I was very sure that either they're gonna be like left behind because of some sort of excuses, or even if they come with us, they're just gonna be like background characters that don't really contribute to anything and barely get any screen time. But that's not what happened actually. Like, even though they didn't like have so much screen time, but I actually enjoyed the few screen times that we actually had with them. Like, I love the joke that they had with the Cecilia being like an emotional pet, or like Billy being a household appliance, and the dynamics between Cecilia and Billy are always amazing. Honestly, like, I think Cecilia and Billy were probably my favorite thing from season 2, besides the issue 1. There's also the moment, like the confrontation between Proxy and Pyrois was also amazing, which I really loved, because like it's interesting that Wise, or the Proxy, whichever you're playing, has this background like that we're just learning about, that they were experimented on, and that's probably what awakened the power that they have right now. And especially after the events from the previous update where he made, like, exposed everyone to danger. So it's nice that we're finally getting control of this power. So at least now Proxy is gonna be contributing something in the Hollows when it comes to the fighting, not in terms of navigation. Because Proxy, like, they were always like a dead weight when it comes to like combat. But nowadays, I think, like, because of Pyrois, we're actually gonna be contributing. So it's not gonna be feeling as stupid to go inside the Hollows. And Roscaelifer as a general, as a city, I really loved it. Like, it really gives back this sense of comfiness and coziness that season 1 had in New Erido, because I really didn't feel the same way in Wi-Fi Peninsula. I think I think Wi-Fi Peninsula, like, did an irreparable damage to my brain, because lots of the complaints that I had in season 2, like, they got fixed in season 3, whether it be in the story, the characters, or like the general direction of the aesthetics and the city and everything. Like, I really love the Roscaelifer. It's a city that really makes me want to explore and hang out with, and the music in it is also really good. Well, the music in Zenless Zone Zero has always been good, to be honest. But yeah, but the songs from this update, like, they had a lot of confidence and this like nostalgia from back when we were in season 1. So I really love that. And we also get introduced to a lot of new concepts, like, for example, the singularity leakages, because this is something that couldn't exist in New Erido, and this is specific to Roscaelifer. The reason, because Roscaelifer exists in the sky, and they don't have regular hollows like the New Erido. They only have like the hollow that they absorb the ether from that is close to them, but beside that, they don't have like hollows as New Erido. And because of this, they have these new things that are called the singularity leakages that is specific to them. And I wonder how the story is gonna go from there. Like, it was interesting to learn that it was the Bamboos who actually triggered that, because the whole story we were under the assumption that the Ethereals were the ones who did that, but it was the Bamboos. So this raises even more questions, because now like the story is heading towards a direction where the Bamboos might be both in danger, like themselves, that they might lose, then get corrupted and die, but they're also endangering everyone around them, because they are the cause of these singularity leakages. And it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fiesta when it comes to what's gonna be happening in the future. And the final thing is Remiel's warning, or not warning, but like hint at the very end of the story, because she didn't elaborate on that yet, but she was hinting at these new enemies called the Enchainers. So my speculation is that these Enchainers are different from the Ethereals. I don't think they are the same as the Ethereals. They must have some unique properties that the regular Ethereals don't have. And I think there might be some, not Ethereals, but like some type of Ethereals that existed way back from the era of the original Void Hunters. So, but we still don't know the details yet. Maybe this is related to one of the reasons why Sunbringer split herself into 3. It might have something to do with something completely different. We don't know. But the new city, the Roscaelifer, is basically raising new dangers, like with the singularity leakages, these new type of Ethereals, the Bamboos being endangering themselves because of the corruption, and also endangering everyone around them. And there's a lot of new cool things that are happening. Oh, and by the way, there's also like the past of the proxies, we still don't know anything about yet. There's that girl from the flashback that we saw that kind of looks similar to Storyteller that we've seen in the trailer. But yeah, there are so many questions, even though we've solved some of them, but there are still a lot of things. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this story. I'm really looking forward how this is going to be. I'm honestly just glad that we are straying away from the whole Exaltus plots, because I'm going to be honest, the Exaltus plots in Season 1 looks promising actually. I really loved the Exaltus plots. But the way it was handled, I just really didn't like it that much. It felt like at some point it felt like they didn't know anything to do with it, because if you remember back in 2.2 we fight the overseer, which it was Isolde, and then after that they're like, okay, the exalted are no more because they lost their leader, and you're like, okay, that's it. Because I was expecting the exalted to be like this giant cult with many people and many leaders, and then as soon as the overseas falls they're like, okay, we're done, and only Sarah is left. And I don't know, like it was very weird. Like I know it makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense that they got rid of them that early. It was barely 1 year after, not barely, it was like 1 year and 2 months since the game's release, and they're already done. Like it's like, imagine if, for those who play in Genshin, it's like we're already done by with the Harbingers plot by I think 2.x or 3.x already. So yeah, they were set up as these major antagonists, and then they were written off already. So I'm kind of glad that we're done with that plot and that we are getting introduced to new things in Roscaelifer. And these new things are actually looking promising. I'm looking to see how his Pyro is going to contribute to the story and his massive aura farm. And yeah, I'm curious to learn about Remiel and what's the deal with her between Sunbringer, because we still don't know if she was actually trying to assassinate her, and whether they have a grudge with each other, and what is the answer that Remiel is seeking from Sunbringer. There's a lot of things, there's so many questions, and I'm curious to learn this in the future updates. But yeah, this is it for the recap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, feel free to let me know. Like I said, this is the first time that I'm doing this. It's not very perfect, I know, but I'm gonna try to improve it and like make it better for the next videos. With that said, see you next time.